5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm John Miglosh from the Wisconsin DMA and the International Society for Strategic Marketing. Okay, so let's get over to TechCrunch News, startup technology news, and I sent this over to a couple of people. A few days ago, the U.S. Commerce Department issued a bunch of new rules to block the downloading of TikTok and WeChat. TikTok got a last-minute reprieve by, and this is really funny because I would never have thought that Oracle and Walmart, Oracle I think of the America's Cup, and Larry putting in millions of dollars, to run the America's Cup in San Francisco Bay. It was really great. It was great. It was cool. But it was, how many people are wearing their Sperry topsiders right now? I am. I could pull my feet up here and show you, but I'm not going to. Yes, I started wearing Sperry topsiders when I was 7 years old. I got my first pair, I remember. Those are sailboat shoes. That's what sailboat people wear. It might be silly, but that's what we wear. So anyway, that's Oracle. That's the way I think of Oracle as. And Walmart, I don't think they sell Sperry topsiders, I'm pretty sure. So anyway, it's weird, but they got together. So now there's a new wrinkle in one district court judge. This is the way our system works. It's really actually a beautiful thing. One district court judge in San Francisco, right by Oracle, said, Trump administration, there's a case against you, WeChat Users Alliance versus Trump. And, some people who watch this think I'm all in for Trump and I'm all in. No, I'm all in for following the rules. I'm all in for making sense out of all of this. And when it makes sense, I'll give it credit. So Laura Beeler, the judge, said that the government's case showed weakness on First Amendment grounds, limiting free speech, its authority to act within existing legislation to allow the government to control industry. Now, what's interesting about this, as you can see, is that Laura is defending free enterprise. She's defending a company against the government. That's what it's saying here. It's saying Trump administration, yeah, WeChat might be hurting America. No, probably. China may be hurting America. Or our trade deals allowed China to hurt America by appropriating our technology and not defending patents in China and other things that were pretty obviously going on. But that doesn't necessarily connect up, and this is what she says. While the government has established that China's activities raise significant national security concerns, she's not disagreeing with the premise that China has been mischievous. Okay? She says the government has established, that China's activities raise significant, but it's put scant little evidence that its effective ban of WeChat addresses those concerns. So the premise makes sense, but the execution may not make sense. Fascinating stuff. Okay, so I just want you to understand that that's why we have an adversarial system. That's why it's important that we don't just have one party, that we don't just have one big federal government, that the governors and the mayors can do their thing even if it wrecks their cities. They have the authority to wreck their own states and cities. So the rest of us can see what happens. It's like 50 little case studies plus cities inside of that. It's a fantastic system. And I got to agree, she's got a point. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. Okay, the Weather Channel is converting their perspective away from cookies and individual predictions and moving to, well, we'll tell you what moving. Okay, do snow flurries make you inexplicably hungry for truffled fries? The Weather Channel probably knows. That's why I don't use the Weather Channel, but I use other things that probably track me to pieces. So when this time of year comes around, the air gets crisp, we go up to we go up to this apple orchard. Fantastic. I've learned so much talking to the owners there. So we missed the Honeycrisp last year, so Susan went up there yesterday, or Saturday, but I was modeling. But it was very, very productive. So this guy decided to leave corporate America and start an apple orchard. And back in the 70s in Italy, we saw that they had improved land use by planting apples in a row, in a very thin row. And so their orchards had very little space between trees, and they trimmed the branches so that the tree was basically a flat plane. And now in America, because we went up to see the orchard, they're doing that also. And so that allows them to use like lawn tractors to go down the rows, and they have pickers that can pick the apples, and it's all highly automated. And so this guy left corporate America, got a couple acres of land, and started building this orchard. And I asked the owner, who's his wife, I mean, she's there running the store. They're only open from August through like October. Now they do banquets and stuff with the big barn, nice barn retail thing that they've done. But I mean, it's a really cool business. He tends his orchard, and they sell honey, and people come from miles and miles and miles around. The place was just jammed, my wife said. But they were selling more Honeycrisp this year. And I asked her last year, if a strain of apples, if a type of apples gets popular, can you graft in those to existing trees? And she said, yes, that's what we did. We've expanded our Honeycrisp. How's that? We've expanded our Honeycrisp onto existing trees. She said the trees are so productive that the first year they have to knock the apples off because the tree doesn't have enough strength to hold the apples. But it wants to make apples. So it's really fascinating stuff. But now they have more Honeycrisps. And Honeycrisp were invented or developed in Minnesota, just a neighboring state, which WDMA gets over to quite a bit. And so you learn a lot about things by looking at that. So this time of year we go up. This is a red herring. My style consultant usually brings these over, but I just think that the marketing and the quality and the adaptation is so great at what they do. So the Weather Channel can micro-target how small weather changes affect what a population buys, and they do. You know, I mean, it's obvious. It says, let's say the channel learns, and this is hypothetical by the author, learns that rainy day weather is the #1 driver of Balenciaga croc sales. Balenciaga croc sales, or maybe umbrellas. Well, back in the day, okay, the very first data analysis project I did was trying to figure out what products we could predict would be in demand for gas stations, service stations. In those days, most gas stations were service stations. They would work on your car and sell gas. And the theory at the time was that you had to sell gas, that in order to sell gas, you had to work on the cars. At this point, just right in here, they were starting to do some video arcades. Some of the owners were sick of fixing cars. They had to keep a big inventory of parts that were never quite right. And so they closed the garage doors and put up some video machines. And this was the very early 80s. And found out that they could make more money per square foot with video arcades than they could and people still bought gas. And then the convenience stores came in, and now basically almost all gas stations are convenience stores. But it was a paradigm shift, a couple of paradigm shifts. But before this happened, we were marketing parts and supplies, tires, batteries, and accessories to the gas station service stations. And what I found was that when the weather got really cold, like beginning of December, those service stations would stock up on snow tires and batteries. Is this rocket science or what? Yeah, well, this was the state of database marketing back in 1982 or 81. And I did a little work with Blockbuster. They never actually hired me, but we got to be friends because I told them it wouldn't work what they were trying to do, and I walked away from 6 figures of consulting fees, and they thought that was really amazing. They'd never met a consultant who was willing to do that. But anyway, Blockbuster told me that 5 of the top 10 drivers of people going to Blockbuster were weather related. Hurricanes, blizzards. Blizzards were the best because there's a lot of uncertainty. One area can get a foot of snow or 2 feet of snow, and another not far away can get 3 inches and not stop you at all. But the entire area is given a warning. Okay, hurricanes too, but they're more intermittent, and so they weren't as helpful. They said if we could just rent snowstorms and blizzards, we would make a fortune, which is exactly the problem. The problem is that the weather is the weather. Now, the other problem is, and this was the problem number 2, when they came to me and said, can you build a catalog, or can we guess what people are going to buy next? You know, which videos will appeal to them? And I said, I'm not sure. And what other products appeal to them? You know, I said the fact that I might have rented the Marx Brothers. It's funny, I went into a Blockbuster and asked the clerk if they had any Marx Brothers movies, you know, after I'd said this. And she said, who are the Marx Brothers? You know, I mean, that's a fair question. She was, you know, probably in high school or something, and she'd never heard of them. So, but the point is that your video rental pattern, first of all, is driven by multiple decision makers in a household. Second of all, it's hard to connect up. It's hard to connect up the weather to demand to specificity. And that's what Amazon's learned. They can recommend products, but they don't say, we think because you bought this, you'll also buy that. What they say is, other customers, or this was popular with other customers who bought that. That's all they say. They don't make the crazy claims that we know what you'll buy. Okay? But the point is that the weather does affect things, and that's why we have the werewolf variable. Your modelers probably don't have the werewolf variable because it is a little difficult to build. But every now and then we see it working, and the idea is that some of the customers are affected by the full moon more than others. It really worked it really popped out in models with Musician's Friend, I have to say. And they were the ones who wanted it built. Anyway, so now we'll get to Mark Ritson, and that's where I wanted to end up today, even though I've gone too long. Let's see how long I've gone. I had a little bit of intro there. I can't quite see the time signature. Oh, way too long. I keep wanting to get to Mark Ritson, but we're going to postpone it today because we've had so much fun talking. So you can all clap. Give me a clap for that, that I'm stopping already. Okay, does weather affect your company? There are data sets you can get to look at that. Another one that looked at weather was 7-Eleven in Japan. They did a case study, and they gave on their dashboard, and Blockbuster also on their dashboard, both had weather in particular markets. So they could see the effect of weather on any given market. So, you know, because they would see something where all of a sudden video rentals would go way up and they wouldn't know why. And so they incorporated that into their sales and marketing dashboard so that real time they could see the weather in a particular market. 7-Eleven did the same thing. They encouraged their store owners to move products forward like umbrellas that were related to the weather at the store. Now, obviously, the store manager knew the weather. Could just look outside. But this, because they encouraged that, they found that the better managers were doing it. That's how they found out. This does work. Now, we did one of these profile projects for a major cataloger. I think I can say Plow and Hearth. Because this was back in the 90s when we developed it with Quad. And we noticed that they had very few customers in the Deep South. And also noticed, because I was a buyer of theirs, that their catalog covers, one cover for the whole country, showed this time of year would start to show snow-covered cottages in New England. And snow-covered cottages have a very different connotation in, let's say, Huntsville, Alabama, than they do in Vermont, right? Because in Vermont, you're just prepared for it. And in Huntsville, you're not. And so an inch or two of snow, everything closes. My daughter went to Whitewater, Wisconsin, UW Wisconsin, Whitewater, and they had hired a new administrator, head of the college and she was from down south, and there was 2 or 3 inches of snow forecast, and so Katie walked to class, and everything was closed. They said, "Why is everything closed?" And somebody said, "Oh, we got a new administrator, and she's from Alabama or somewhere." That didn't happen again. We almost never close for snow, and especially not for 3 inches. But, it's cultural. So we suggested that, Quad suggests, that they segment the customer, the covers, do the demo bind project, which they immediately did. And so this profiling can work, and it can spot patterns. With Baseball Express, we noticed that the baseball level of interest moved north through the spring. It was very high in early January, February in Huntsville, Alabama, down in Alabama and Mississippi. But it wasn't in Wisconsin. We don't start thinking about baseball till about March or April, really, to be honest. Spring training might start, but the games are on the radio or on the TV, but nobody's outside playing because the field is a swamp, because we got the frost coming out of the ground. It's a big muddy mess. So you can't really get started with baseball till later in the spring. And so we used to stagger their mailings going north. So weather affects it, and understanding and profiling your customers affect it. So go over to WDMA and register. Click on the missing piece. That mail and machine learning. Machine learning is missing from most mailers, and mail is missing from most people trying to do machine learning. It's actually fascinating. Have a great day. Like and share. Your friends will know you're smart. I'm John Miglosh. Bye-bye.